Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to this week's video. In this week's video we're going to take a look at just a basic node which is in Unreal, and it's just for basically changing velocity of your character very quickly. It's very simple to set up and use. I'll just give you an example of how you would use it. So for example, I've been playing around with a little bit of some platforming stuff, and I've also been playing a lot of Fortnite recently. Now Fortnite's got sort of like jump pads and sort of like launchers to get you across the map a little bit quickly, because it's a battle royale. The area is quite large, so things to speed up getting around larger maps is quite useful. And it just got me thinking, I wonder how they do it. And actually there's a very simple node in Blueprint which just allows you to add or change the velocity of your character very quickly. So just some examples here. You've got like just a basic jump pad, something that when you hit, obviously it pushes you in a particular direction. So you can set it up where it always sets you up in one direction. So for example, using the same sort of logic, I've just got this sort of boost pad which pushes me straight forward, but it always pushes me in the same direction, so no matter what. So that'll always boost me over here. Now, if I run into that head on, it'll push me backwards. You could use this one here to just jump over there. And these have all been set up slightly differently, so they've all got slightly different speeds, which is also easy to configure. So you'll see here that if I hit this one now head on, it'll still push me in the same direction, no matter what, because I've set that up. But some of these green ones I've set up to basically take my character's direction and just add to that. So for this one, it'll boost me up here, and then this one will fire me across the map, which I don't think I've made that, and I fell off the map. But like I said, they're really simple to set up. They're all based off one node, which is pretty neat, and that's just the launch character node. So let's just jump straight into it. So in my content folder here, I've just got a basic bounce pad and a speed up pad, which I've made. So we'll look at the bounce pad first. Now, really, you can ignore all of that part. It's mainly just this node that runs everything. So it literally is just a launch character node. Now, what I've done is on the bounce pad itself, I've just got a static mesh with a box collision on top of it. Now, I have added a custom wind material to it, just so it looks like it's jiggling around a little bit. If you're interested, I can show you how I've made that. I'll put that at the end because it's nothing to do with the launch, but if you're interested, just stick around till the end and I'll show you what's made that. That's also really simple. Anyway, so once you hit this collision box, what we do is on the right hand side here at the bottom, we've just triggered an on component begin overlap. So when our character overlaps this box, we trigger an event. Now, just to limit this to characters or people walking around, I've done a cast to character. So basically anything that's made with the character sort of blueprint, which is, if we create a blueprint, is just this. Anything that's got the parent of character will work with this. Once that's triggered, that'll then launch that character by a set velocity. Now, what you can do is, if I just disconnect this one for now, what you can do is you could just basically type in what values you want to trigger it by. I recommend that you make a variable and have it editable, so you can edit it without from outside of the asset, which I'll show you what I've done in just a minute, which is this. Now, so let's change this to just 1,000 on the Z-axis, and we'll hit compile and we'll play. Typically now what will happen is if I stand on this, it'll just send me straight up in the air, and that's pretty much it. So because it's only going vertical up and down, you can see that this is just a basic repetitive bounce pad, which you can move off it using the air control, but if you run into it, it's not going to keep your momentum. It's going to push you forward, and that's up into the air, and that's about it. So that's where this extra little bit of blueprint comes in, which makes it a bit more useful in my eyes. So we'll connect this launch up to this make vector. So what we've got going on here is the character which triggers the overlap event. we're going to get the forward vector, and that's basically just some information of which direction is this character moving. What we're doing then is we're going to take that and we're going to times that direction by a sort of boost factor or a scale factor. So for me, I had it defaulted as 250, but in reality you're going to have that a lot higher if you want your character to actually move across the scene. Typically what will happen is this forward vector will return like 1 on the X, 0.5 on the Y, something like that. And then when you times it by this value, you're basically telling it to push you in a certain direction. And then lastly, you've got the Z-axis, which is going to contribute to the height. So I've set that to 1000 by default. So essentially, we're going to be sending the character up, but in a certain direction that he was already traveling in. Now, what you can also do is with this node, you can completely override the character's velocity. So basically, these figures that you've typed in here just replace what the character's current velocity was. But if you untick these, essentially you just add in this value to your current velocity. So the downside to that is if I was already traveling at a given speed and then I hit another one of these boxes, my speed's going to be doubled in a sense. See if I can hit this other one and you'll see what I mean. As I'm traveling at a certain speed, when I hit these other box, which I don't think I'm going to be able to do with the values that I typed in, let's try. My speed is then like exponentially tripled because it takes that the velocity I was already traveling at and just adds a lot of extra velocity to it. So you can play around with that. That's something you might want. For example, if this node doesn't work in this instance, I'm afraid, but if you was, let's say you was doing like a driving game or something like that, if you did a boost, you might not want them to keep adding up because you don't want the speed to be like infinite. So having these override is probably a safer way of doing it. And then lastly, all I've done here is every time I hit the box, I'm just playing a little animation which basically changes the scale of the box. Obviously when you jump on it, you might not be able to see it on this one, but if I move over to here, when I jump on the box, it actually grows. So you see the box grows a little bit and then shrinks. That's more of sort of like a cartoony effect of just the bounce pad looks like it's been jumped on. And if you've got any experience with Fortnite, if you've ever played Fortnite, there used to be like a crash pad that when you jump on it, it does the same sort of thing. It kind of enlarges to suggest that something's been jumped on. And that you can basically copy this. We just have a little timeline here that says go from 0 to 0.5, and essentially that 0.5 just changes the scale from one size to another, and then is setting that, and then basically when the animation's finished, it just resets and puts that in reverse, and it goes back to the original size. And that's pretty much it. And the speed up pad is pretty much identical. As you can see, this one's a lot more minimal. There's no animation or anything like that. Just as soon as somebody overlaps the box, we're going to cast the character to make sure it is a character. If it is, we're going to continue on and we're going to launch that character by a certain speed. Now again here I've just put 1000 in the X. Just to make that a little bit easier, what I've done is I've gone and put an arrow component in. So when I put this in my world, I can see with the arrow you're going to go that way. Now what I've also done is I've made the actual launch speed instance editable. So what that allows you to do is when you drag these into the world, so let's move this over here. Not that it matters all that much where I put it. Let's move that over there. Tell you what, I'm making this awful. Let's put that there. Let's lower it down. I know I'm going to get fired off in a diagonal axis here, and you can see here at the bottom right we've got launch direction and speed. That's just going to put 1000 in the X. So we'll press play now, and what we'll do is we'll get up here badly, and then when we hit that pad, it's just going to push us away. Now, because 1,000 is so minimal, you don't really notice a difference there, but obviously you can use this as and where you need it to. I think things like this are pretty good for if you're doing like a platformer and you want to put up some jump pads or some bounce pads to get to the next platform. These could be really useful. Other scenarios is exactly like I mentioned. I've been playing a lot of Fortnite. If you've got a large map and you just need something to get across the map, you can use these, and you just need to adjust the values to suit the size of your map, which if we select this, by having the values instance editable, we can set these to 3,000 and set the forward boost to 6,500, and then hopefully now this will be enough. So we'll see. We'll jump up here, we'll hit that, and I think I might just get on there like that, and then obviously this pad over here has been set up to be slightly less, and that should just be enough to get me across there. So I know that was very simple. The launch character node, all this time I didn't even know that it existed, so hopefully you guys didn't know it existed either, and hopefully that can be something that you can add to your game. Hopefully it fits your style of games, but yeah, that's it. So I hope that was useful. I know it was quick and short. Christmas is coming up. I've got a lot less time to make videos at the moment. Work's quite busy, family's quite busy, so my videos are probably going to be a little bit shorter over Christmas. I'm going to try and do something a little bit nicer for closer to Christmas. I might not post a video next week, similarly how I did it last week, and just try and give you sort of a decent quality video before Christmas. I can't promise that because things are getting hectic, but hopefully I can give you something of decent value. If this helped you at all, please consider giving me a like. If you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing. Leave any comments and feedback down below. I do reply to all my comments, so if there's something that you want to ask or if there's something you want to request, please put it down below. I'll add it to my ever-growing to-do list, and we'll get around to it. I did mention that I was going to show how to make this wind material, so if you want to stick around and watch that, please do so. So again, I did mention that this was very basic, so all I've done is I've set up a basic colour. I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll make a new one. How about that? So we'll right click and we're going to create a new material. We're going to go M underscore, I'm just going to put wind blue, because we'll make a blue one this time. Open up your material. I'm just going to drag that up to the top. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a base colour. So I'm just going to do, it's a vector 3, but you can hold the number 3 on your keyboard and click, and you'll get this vector 3. You can then select the constant here at the side, this black colour, just click it, and we're going to pick a blue. Make sure to drag your saturation to the top, and then we can sort of fine tune that colour. I quite like that, looks kind of like a pastel blue, I like it. We'll hit OK, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to drag the RGBA value at the top and just plug it into the base. So you can see now we've just got a blue circle, which is absolutely fine. Now, to make it jiggle around a little bit, you need to adjust the world offset value. Now, to give it kind of like a wobbly kind of motion, what we can do is there's actually a node which I think, well, based off its name, it's intended to give grass a sort of like swaying in the wind effect. So you can actually put grass, and you can see here that there's a simple grass wind node, and it pretty much does exactly what it says on the tin. It gives a kind of like simple grass windy sway to your material, and it just offsets the whole material, which looks pretty neat. And what I tend to do is I get a vertex color, and then I do a multiply, just a basic multiply, and I plug that into A, plug the colour into B, and plug this into the world offset. And finally, all we need to do now is just set these values. So for each one of these, you can just press 1 on the keyboard and just click 4 times because you need 4 of them. And let's just plug into each one of these. And what you can do is you can hit apply. Now, obviously everything's 0, so it's not going to do anything. So you can see here you've got intensity, weight, speed, and just additional WPO. I really didn't know how to set this up originally, so I just put in some random numbers and just see what made a difference. But if you want a really noticeable amount, you could go for 1, 0.5, 0.2, and I don't know, I just got to go 1 again on the bottom. Now I'm not going to try and bother to explain how each of these affects it, because I really don't know. Not properly anyway. All I can do is adjust the values and just see what difference it makes. Typically I only change the weight and the intensity, and I'll leave these bottom 2 as they are. If we hit apply now and we go back to our world, I'm just going to change the appearance of this one. So I'm going to go to my static mesh and change this to wind blue, and you can see that it's really wobbling around there. Now for me that was too much, so instead what I did is I would set this value, the top number 1, to something like 0.2. If we apply that, you can see that that intensity is a lot lower now. So it is jiggling, it is kind of moving around, but it gives a bit of life to it rather than it's actually jiggling around, which I like. And then to reduce its sort of like how much it moves by, I lowered the weight. If you apply that, it tends to not move around as much now. And then you can sort of play with the other settings as you will. But that's basically how I made that material. Again, not a part of this video really, but I just thought I'd chuck that in there at the end just for a bit of a bonus tip. But if any of that was useful, consider giving me a like. I'm not going to go over all that again. Leave your comments down below. I'll get back to you. And thank you for watching. See you in another video.